How are you, Raider Nation? It is great to see you. Good Sunday to you. Uh, before I dig into today, we got a really good podcast for you. Um, I haven't taped it yet, but so I don't want to use any names, but have a very special podcast for you tomorrow. It's going to really take you behind the NFL. A former NFL general manager, now an executive at a tremendously successful franchise, and a former pro football player and a parent of a current pro football player. And that's all one person, former player, parent of a player, GM, and a current executive with a very successful franchise who also happens to be he and his wife, some of Shannon and I's dearest friends on planet Earth. He's going to join us hopefully tomorrow. And we're going to dig in and going to really take you behind the scenes about running a franchise, scouting so much. He's got a really awesome um, connection to John Spytek and the Raiders, by the way. I'll tell you about all that tomorrow. But because we haven't taped it, I don't want to give any names. I'm going to surprise you, but I think it's one that if you're a football fan, you're going to love. And I think regardless of whether or not you're Raiders, because it's going to really take you behind what are GMs going through, what's going on, what's happening. We're going to ask them some great questions. Some of you have given me over the years, and I'll say, that would be better for a general manager. What are the hardest positions to scout? Why? All kinds of stuff. It's going to be a really awesome podcast for those of you that love the game of football. Again, unless something happens like a plane's delayed or whatever, it'll be tomorrow. That'll drop at 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Please make sure that you're watching. And that's on Monday. Some of you don't even watch the Sunday podcast till Monday. So at Monday at 2 Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific time, when that podcast drops, and you are going to love it. I love this guy like my very own brother. He is my Christian brother, but I love him like my own brother. And Shannon and I are very close to he and his beautiful bride. So and his all of his children. So and family, parents. That's wow. And their parents. I'm old, but you'll enjoy it. So please check that out tomorrow. I want to talk to you today about the move from OTAs to mandatory minicamp. It's on the horizon now. We're a week away, a little bit more than that, but roughly a week away. Um, and I want to talk to you about uh, what to be watching for. I asked several executives, a bunch of you sent in emails to me asking me what's the difference. And so I did a quick blast. I sent 5 general managers a text saying, can you give me 5, 6 things that you think are make it different? And I took all of those. And then what I did is I wrapped them. So if 4 of the 5 guys um, picked one thing, it for sure made the list. And then the 5 most. Now, here's the funny thing 4 of these 5, all of them had. And then one of them, 4 of them had, and one didn't. So I'm only going over those first 5 things and want to dig in with you because this is what you can be expecting. Now, when we are at practice, and as a member of the Pro Football Writers Association, obviously a beat writer for SI, on SI, um, there are certain standards. It is easy to not go to practices and critique. That's easy. But there's an old poem about the man in the arena. But you have to understand a couple of things. Part of the rules with being a member of the Pro Football Writers Association that is if we are at practice, we are not allowed to discuss specifics unless the coaches do. So let's make something up. Let's say that they were moving Colton Miller to quarterback. Okay. And, we can talk about, hey, Colton Miller got some reps today at quarterback. right? That's fine. But let's say they were trying to run speed option with Colton Miller. And obviously, we know this isn't accurate. It's why I'm picking something absurd because when you use examples, people that aren't there sometimes will run with it. Oh, Hondo reporting. I'm not. Okay. We can't talk about specifics. So I'm not allowed to give you specific formations or anything that could hurt the Raiders. That's part of their negotiations with the Pro Football Writers Association to let us in is, hey, you don't give up schematics, excuse me. I was thinking semantics. That was dumb. You don't give up uh, those information that could hurt the team. So let me give you an example. A couple of years ago when Josh McDaniels was coach, they were down in West Virginia practicing, as you remember. And that week they started working on literally quarterback comes off of center. Here comes the wide receiver, handing him the ball, just a quick end around, many different ways to call the play. Okay. So I talked about getting away is a good thing. It gives you time to, and I would expect because there's a little extra time because they didn't go back to Vegas that you may see some new wrinkles. That was fair in my report. But I didn't talk about using the speed option, or I didn't talk about any of that. And you may remember the next week they went to Buffalo and they did that. There was actually some success early and then went away from it, which made no sense. It was working. So you have to be careful because there's some things you can't. So I remember in particular, somebody went after one of my colleagues from another um, um, media entity and was really ripping this particular reporter hard. And I thought, how stupid. Well, this other media guy said this and this. Hey, I'm all for it. I have friends that are not in the building and don't go to practices and have legitimate good opinions. I'm not saying those people don't. But it's one thing to sit out there and be critical. If these beat writers are any good, they would have told us about XYZ. Some things we can't, or you lose your access because it's been agreed upon by the Pro Football Writers Association and the team. So there's going to be some things that there's already been some new wrinkles that I've seen with the Raiders. I can't talk to you about. I can tell you it is not going to look like last year. Nothing wrong with that. That should encourage you if you were unhappy with last year's offense. And if you weren't unhappy with it, you're a Chiefs fan. But um, I can't get into schematics, and I wouldn't. But here is what I'm going to be looking for. It's what the teams are looking for, and it's what I am going to report about to you. So, number one, it is one thing to install stuff, and that's what happens at OTAs. Not a lot. You work a lot on conditioning and a lot on fundamentals, a lot. But you do begin to implement wrinkles. You do begin to implement things and processes that you want. But but when you get to mandatory minicamp, where now everybody has to be, and not everybody's been at mandatory minicamp, I mean at OTAs, I've told you that, but none of it was anybody being hateful. There's no animus. People were there and were not there, and everyone understood it. But at mandatory minicamp, everybody's there. So now all of a sudden they go from installing and hey, here's our theory, here's what we want to do, to now it's the process. Now you're going to see them begin to really dial it in on position coaches working on stance now militaristically. It's one thing to say, hey, Ashley, we want you to change this. Let's work on this. Let's experiment a little bit. Mandatory minicamp, it's more process driven. The energy level is up. The intensity is up. At OTAs, everyone's relaxed, they're having fun, they're working, but they're having fun. OTAs, they're working and having fun, but they're working now. It's not like training camp. There's no hitting, but it is intense. And so it's really going from the relaxed install. I heard it said one time it's a difference between a Friday practice and a Wednesday practice during the season without pads. It's intensity level. Fridays are a lot of walkthroughs, written tests. That's kind of your OTAs. Mini camp, it's a lot of grinding. And even though you're not hitting, it's fast paced. The intensity level goes up. And the next one is um, presentation. They begin to work on presentation. This is where they're going to spend a lot of time working on cadence with the quarterback. Okay. This is where these guys are going to learn a lot about Geno's cadence. Geno may get his cadence changed a little bit by Chip Kelly. I know some teams that literally say hut. I know some teams that say ut just because they think it's a third of a second faster. So red, blue 27, alpha, alpha, spider, 226, 226, hot, hot. Instead, it's ut, ut, bam, bam. So each team does it differently. Most people don't know that. You're going to begin to put in what are going to be some of your checks, what are going to be put in some of your audibles. Okay. So I'll give you an example. I know a team that I covered that when they, in the first quarter, if they wanted to switch the play, the sides of the play, they would yell out a cartoon. So they may be there, sit, blue 21, 14, alpha, alpha, SpongeBob, 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 or Spider-Man, Spider-Man, Spider-Man. Okay. And in the first quarter, that meant we're switching same play, different sides. So sometimes guys would move whatever. Okay. If they went with a city, then the city was we're going to the alternate place. So if it was a run, we're going to a pass and whatever the pass place. So they may be sitting there saying, so let's say they wanted to go to a different side and go from a run to a pass. So blue 27, 1488, spider, 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 not Spider-Man, spider. All right. SpongeBob, SpongeBob, SpongeBob. Chicago, Chicago, Chicago. So SpongeBob means we're going to the other side. Chicago means we're going from a pass to run or run to pass. And then they would already have a pre-called play. It was different in the second quarter. So this is where people had to pay attention. Because in the second quarter, if you're not cognizant as a player that it's the second quarter and he goes SpongeBob, you think the player. This is where it talks about mental errors. Do you remember we talked about how they do tests on Fridays? How they do tests on Fridays? Because they'll go through and put a play call. It'll say 2:41 to go in the second quarter, play call, cadence, what's going on? So then they want to know, do you understand what's going on? So now they're going to begin to install some audibles and cadence. Okay. I knew a quarterback one time who he always go set down 221 or whatever. He would do a number, which was a relative, but whatever. And then some quarterbacks don't even do down anymore. Again, remember I talked about ut and hut, all the differences. Then some they use colors for protections. Some they use numbers. Some they use uh, whatever. But they're learning all of this. They're going from because everyone's going to be there now, and they're working on um, presentation. Now they're also going to be looking for questions for camp. Okay, I knew a guy one time who was a player and just in OTAs dropped everything. All right. So they get to mandatory camp and they're trying to address it. And in mandatory camp, he was dropping everything. So they instantly knew we need to probably go get a different wide receiver here, or at least bring an extra one in to compete with him because it's a question mark. Now he got to the training camp and he was great. He was great. If I named him, you wouldn't even believe it, so I'm not gonna do it, but he was great. And so they're looking for what are questions at training camp. We come out of OTAs, we go into mini camp. Is there anything we're leaving mini camp with question marks in? Do we feel like, hey, this offensive lineman is struggling with cadence? Do we feel like whatever? And so they're looking at questions for camp. What things are standing out? Man, with nobody coming at them, is there somebody that, I mean, the other day in practice, there was a couple people that jumped off sides. Okay, they pay attention to that. There's no pads. You're not going to get hit. If you're jumping off sides this time of year in OTAs, it's not good. But in minicamp, it's a big place of concern because the intensity goes up and they're being told, hey, this is the last time we're going to get to look at you heading into training camp. Now, a lot of times you'll see new guys get added before training camp. And usually it's because somebody in OTAs gets to mini camp and some things aren't addressed. And again, they're looking for questions for camp. Now they're looking at trade evaluations. Okay. Now you say, well, what does that mean, Hondo, if they're not playing with pads? All right. Let's say that they've got multiple guys and they're looking at their chart and by the way, on Tuesday, I'm going to give you my projected practice squad, who I think is going to make the practice squad. And then on Wednesday, the entire podcast is going to be related to who I think makes the 53-man roster. Okay. So make sure you don't miss Tuesday and Thursday's podcast. You do not want to miss it. So let's keep going here for a moment. So then they're going to start looking at trade evaluations. All right. No pads are on, so nobody's injured. Thank God. But man, we've got a surplus here. Okay. They may look at a guy, and I'm going to name a position that is as absurd as Colton Miller running quarterback. You say, what is that evaluation? Let's say, okay, we got 3 really good kickers we can afford to trade to. Well, they only have their one. But I'm just saying they're looking at, these are guys that all look good. Right now may be the best time to trade them because they're healthy. And so they're looking at trade evaluations. They're paying attention. Hey, there's some guys getting it. I'll never forget one time a team picked a rookie that they really, really liked. But he had come from, it was a team I covered, I'm not saying which one. He came from a wide open college spread formation. He had never been under center. He had never been, I mean, several things about what he did. He had never been a privy of or part of. And so he gets into camp and they're like, listen, we think he's going to be really good. He's special. But we're a little concerned he may not be ready when the season came. So they made a trade and got somebody to bolster that position. And about halfway through the year, when he had acclimated, he then took off. And I don't remember if he was a Pro Bowler his first year or his second year, but I think it was his second year. They're looking at that stuff. Are any of these guys struggling? Not struggling because they're stupid, but if you've only known one way. Okay, Laki Tassi. Let me just give you him as an example. You have never once heard me remotely say I think he's going to make the 53. I've said if he plays real good in preseason, it's going to be difficult to hide him on the practice squad. And I gave the detail answered why. But invariably, because people watch what I say, because I'm there, and they run with it and report, and people are like, that's so stupid. Hondo's an idiot if he thinks that guy's going to make it. Well, you're an idiot because you believe what others say and don't watch for yourself. Okay. But Laki Tassi has the potential because of his incredible size and athleticism. He could be a superstar in this league, but he knows nothing about the game of football. He has to learn it all. His learning curve is just straight uphill. All right. But the Raiders are also like, let's give him a shot to go learn some guard. You got a 350-pound guard that can pull with the ease of Stephen Curry point guard. That's Pro Bowlish. He's not there now. He doesn't even know the game. And I never implied that. But you start looking at it and saying, man, this guy's going to be special. All right. So you pay attention to that stuff. Maybe you think, wow, he's picking up the game a lot quicker than we thought. And I'm not reporting that. I'm just speaking purely hypothetical. Those are things that go into trade evaluations. Maybe you got a guy who's a little bit older. I knew a team one time that I covered that had a seasoned veteran on it, a seasoned veteran who had a massive year. Comes back the next year and Father Time had hurt him a little bit. He didn't train as hard that off season because he had had a major year. And they realized, oh, well, Father Time caught up with him a little bit. And I remember talking to him and he said, yeah, it used to be, the first 6, 8 weeks of the off season, I ate whatever I wanted, relaxed, hunted, and then started getting serious back into my training. He goes, but man, it was really hard to get back in my training this time. Why? Father Time. So they were able to ship him off and got a handsome wage for it because of how he'd played the year before. And they were able to elevate a young player. So they're looking at all of that other stuff. And then the last thing that you're going to see is intensity. Now, I need to explain there's a saying in the game of football about letting the lion or letting the tiger loose. And it's about guys who get all hyped emotionally all week talking trash. Then they get out on the field and it's like, "Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do." They were so intense all week that they couldn't maintain it. Now, many of you who followed me for a long time have heard me say, you can win a game on emotion. Absolutely, you can. You saw the 2023 Raiders, Josh McDaniels gets fired, and the Raiders took off with emotion. Slowed at the end. And then you saw what happened in 24 when the discipline of 23 wasn't there. Why? Because energy is only going to sustain you. It's your talent. It's what you do with your talent. And so if you expect Bill Belichick, by the way, if you've not read his new book, Art of Winning, you got to go get Bill's book. You got to go get the book. If you love football, just get the book. But a lot of people had a misconstrued feeling about Bill that he must give these rousing pregame speeches. No, he didn't believe in it. He used to say, I want them ready and then unleash the beast on the field. So you say, what's that have to do, Hondo, with mini camp? This is the last time they're going to be there before training camp. There are going to probably, not 100% certain, but there are probably going to be guys who might not get invited to training camp or may get invited to training camp, but somebody else gets invited to compete with them because they're not happy. And so the intensity goes up because guys know, okay, I get to go take a vacation. I got 6 weeks off, 7 weeks off, whatever, 8 weeks. And then my season begins. Actually, it wouldn't be 8 at all. It'd probably be, roughly 5 or 6. Sorry. And what happens is, so intensity goes way up. You will see this with the Max Crosbys will set the temperature. Geno Smith set the temperature. Jacoby Myers set the temperature. And Max will set it with energy and talking. Geno will set it with energy and talking, but in a different way. Jacoby Myers, not a loud, get in your face, cuss you out guy. Neither is Geno, like Max is. But they're going to get into with turning the intensity up. In OTAs, if you make a cut and something happens, oh my bad. Mini camp? Mm-mm. No, it's not my bad. I can tell you that mini camp is at times more intense than the second week. Well, maybe not the second week, but the third week of preseason for sure. And because they know this is my last chance to put something on film. Now, if you're a veteran, You're trying to show off some things because you want them to start writing you more into the playbook. Okay. You're trying to show your skill set. So Chip Kelly or Patrick Graham says, what about this? I'm not going to name the player. I remember one time at a mandatory mini camp, I was talking to a coordinator afterwards. And I said, what stood out? And they named a player and they go, I was really impressed with something he did. And I said, really? He goes, yeah. And he goes, I'm going to draw some stuff and I'm going to check on this early in camp. So he wrote 2 plays specifically to what he saw. Early in camp, he installs these 2 plays. The player shines. The player goes on to have a massive year and really went from a role player to an important player, a key player, because he showed something in mandatory minicamp, trying to make that last impression before these coaches. And yes, they will take a vacation, but before they're in there now, they're starting to write their practice schedule and all of that for minicamp. The intensity goes way up. So I will be reporting on all of those things. There are 5 things right there that you're going to want to keep an eye on. Remember, it starts June 9th. We're 8 days away from that mini camp, and it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big deal. The Raiders are not a Super Bowl team, but they are a much improved team. And there's going to be some battles now for this roster. And nobody is going to win a starting job in mandatory minicamp or OT. Well, yeah, they're not going to win it. Okay. But I've seen people lose it. I've never seen a player win a starter's job in OTAs or minicamp, but I have seen them lose it. I'll give you an example. That older veteran I told you that came back and was kind of not in his shape. Okay. They figured, well, he'll be fine when preseason gets here. And so they get to training camp. They start giving more reps to the young guy, and they're like, oh, no, he's not ready, but we better trade him before the first game, preseason game. I mean, regular season game. So they hold them out like you do starters and ended up trading him. So again, never seen anybody win a job, but I have seen them lose a job. So the intensity goes way up. This is going to be a very big deal. Again, we are going to have a massive week for you on the podcast. If you are a football fanatic, if you love the game of football, this is going to be a great week for you. A great week. Again, I'm sure it's happening. It's scheduled, but we haven't filmed it yet. So I never saying until it's filmed and in the bank. Special guest tomorrow. You don't want to miss. A GM, NFL executive, former player in the NFL, all of it going to be with us talking football, pulling back the curtain on what executives are looking at this time of year, the game, all of it. Then that'll be Monday, 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock Pacific. Tuesday, I'm giving you my practice squad prediction and why. We're going to give you evaluations of these guys. Wednesday, the 53-man roster. And I may do offense Thursday, defense Friday. I don't know yet. I don't know yet, but it's coming. And then we're kicking it. And then bam, we are right back into mini camp. And we have stuff every day for you. So thanks for being with us today. I greatly appreciate you. Have a great Sunday. God bless you.